Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes before I get started. Wait for a couple of people to tune in. So I'll be back in 1 second. I'm going to get started in a second. So just bear with me. I'm just waiting for a couple of more people to tune in before I get started. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I saw this article. One of my friends on Facebook sent me this article, and also a YouTuber sent me this article as well. They posted a link as a comment to one of my videos, and they asked me to talk about this particular subject. And I was like, I already intended to talk about this, so I'm like, why not just do it now? Because I saw this article like a few days ago and I was reading it, and I was like, this will make a great discussion here on YouTube. So I'm going to share my screen and we can get right into it. Just bear with me a second. Okay, so you can see the article right now. It's titled, Why I'm No Longer Pro-Black and What It Means to Be Pro-Black Woman or Women. And it has this photograph right here. And as I was reading this article, before I even get into what the article says, the sentiment of this article is nothing new. I mean, there are plenty of YouTubers on here who have, went from being pro-Black to all of a sudden being focused on women's issues and not concerned at all about the plight of the Black community or Black people, period. That's nothing new on here. There are plenty of women that have done this. And there are some plenty of women who were never pro-Black and who were always, focused on just women's issues and the concerns of Black women. And, a lot of these people have a very narrow perspective. Some of them have made derogatory comments about Black men and the Black community in general. You have some who have, coined the phrase Blackistan, or the term Blackistan, to refer to the Black community, and they see it as some place to escape from. You have some of these women that view interracial dating as leveling up and improving their life, and they celebrate white men while they denigrate Black men. They constantly talk about how there are no marriageable Black men out here, and they feature a lot of these white men and other non-Black men on their programs as if they are some kind of prize to win. So this whole thing is nothing new. You have some of these women that complain about colorism in the Black community. That's their sole focus. And the thing that's so hypocritical about some of these women is that while they focus on colorism, many of them are the same people promoting interracial relationships that lead to a lot of the problems with colorism. It perpetuates colorism because the same light-skinned women that they're complaining about are the same light-skinned women that they're producing. So it's just a lot of hypocrisy. A lot of these women, again, this is nothing new. I did a video responding to this YouTube personality who posted some video talking about how Black women shouldn't be marching for George Floyd or any other Black man, basically, that Black women shouldn't be involved in these protests and all that kind of stuff, basically discouraging Black women from participating in the movement for Black lives and for Black liberation. And the sad thing is, this is nothing new. You had, some of these people were pro-Black at one point, and now all of a sudden they're the ones telling people not to protest for Black men that are victims of police brutality. They're almost as bad as that Candace Owens clown. Even she has done videos where she's denigrating Black men, like George Floyd, and actually giving money to white racist cops to kill Black people. That's how far it goes. But what I'm going to do is go through this woman's comments, in this article, and just provide my responses as I'm reading these particular comments. Hopefully I'll be able to get to some comments. And if people want to join this dialogue, if I'm familiar with you, I'll send you an invite. You just need to give me your email address and I'll send you an invite, because here on YouTube, you can no longer just message people directly on their, through their YouTube accounts. So this woman says, once upon a yesteryear, I was a very pro-Black community type girl. Everything I did, from the purchases I made to the media that I watched, was dedicated to improving the general state of the Black community. So she goes on about that. She says, I can no longer in good conscience fight for a community where men are more concerned with entering entertainment, clowning Black women on Instagram, and gaining proximity to whiteness or symbols of status than building a self-sustaining community. And then she goes on to say, look at Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. Kanye West is just one individual. He's an entertainer, and you do have some prominent entertainers that are in that situation. But you also have plenty of Black entertainers who are married to Black women, who support Black people and Black causes. People like a LeBron James, somebody that actually built, funded Black schools, gave tons of scholarships away, who's spoken out on Black issues. There are plenty of Black celebrities that are participating in the Black Lives Matter movement, and people funding, giving funds to social justice groups. So it's like these people cherry pick situations and they highlight it and emphasize it and blow it up to make it seem as if it's the norm, as if Kanye West actually represents the norm for Black men. And she goes on to talk about, like, instead of creating Black schools and building in the Black community, he prefers to make disparaging comments comparing Black women to white women. Now, I mean, again, you have examples of Black men that are building Black businesses, plenty of Black businesses. I know many Black attorneys that have created Black businesses. There are law firms of Black businesses employing Black people, winning cases for Black people. And again, you have LeBron James giving money to schools. And then you have the example of Diddy. He's helped create charter schools in New York City and fund them and all that kind of stuff. There is so much work that's going on. Many celebrities give back to the community on a regular basis and build the Black community. And not just celebrities, like many people that are working class or, even upper class or whatever, they are part of community organizations. They are members of groups, traditional civil rights groups. They are the ones making donations to civil rights groups and all that kind of stuff to make a difference in people's lives. They are the ones participating in mentor programs. So I think that it's just ridiculous for somebody to just cherry pick these examples of some celebrities that aren't, quote unquote, doing what you think that they should be doing. Even a Kanye West has done things to benefit the community, despite, things that I obviously disagree with. Even somebody like him has done things for the community. And then she went on to say this. She talked about Black Lives Matter. She said Black Lives Matter is an excellent example of a movement that was started by 3 Black women. And yet she says that the movement, by and large, ignores Black women on a daily basis. That's just not true. I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement, they regularly speak out on behalf of Black women that are victims of police brutality. And they even speak out for trans women that are killed and all that kind of stuff. They talk about a lot of different issues. I regularly see prominent people that are associated with Black Lives Matter speaking out in these cases of police brutality against Black women. Now, she goes on to say this. She talks about Breonna Taylor. She says, just because people are speaking out about Breonna Taylor doesn't mean that people generally give a shit about the lives of Black women and girls. And I mean, I just think that that's not true. I mean, there are plenty of people that are not just protesting around Breonna Taylor. There are plenty of people that are concerned about the plight of women, plenty of Black men and Black people, period, in the community concerned about the plight of Black women, speaking out in support of Black women's causes and rallying behind Black women and defending Black women. Of course, I think that there's more that we can do. We should do more to highlight examples of police brutality against Black women. That's why there's a whole Say Her Name campaign to bring even more attention to these cases. So I do believe that we need to have compassion for our sisters and defend our sisters and rally behind our sisters. Now, the other thing that she points out is about the violence against Black women. She says that, and this is something that I've heard these other YouTubers cite, like there's so many of these male bashing, bitter, butthurt Black women here on YouTube that constantly cite these types of statistics to justify their own dysfunctional behavior, their own abandonment of the Black community. So this woman cites the rates of abuse, murder, and homicide against Black women are often at the hands of Black men. that, are more often at the hands of Black men than other races. And the thing that I want to say about that is, like, most violence in any community is more likely to be among the people within that community. Like, white men are more likely to abuse white women than any other group of people, other groups of men, or, you tend to abuse the people that you are near. And, obviously the abuse of women needs to be addressed and confronted. Misogyny needs to be addressed and confronted. So this article goes on to say that 9 out of 10 women know their killer before they were murdered. And it says that Black women are 3 times more likely to be victims of homicide than their white or male counterparts. And, the problem of violence in the community, that has to be addressed. But what happens in these kinds of discussions, this is a diversion. When people talk about the inner city violence, for instance, when the subject matter is police brutality, that diverts the discussion away from the core issue of police brutality. And this talk about the violence against women is designed to basically divert attention from the issue of racism in this country, from the issue of race oppression in this country, the oppression of Black people, and there are many facets to our oppression as a people, but it diverts away from that and basically says you need to be focused on this violence against Black women issue instead of all these other issues of race oppression that Black people face. As far as I'm concerned, those are 2 separate issues that need to be addressed separately. The problem of violence against our women has to be addressed, but that shouldn't be connected to whether or not people should be united in their fight against racism and white supremacy. Those should be 2 separate conversations. They're necessary conversations. We need to deal with domestic violence in the Black community. We need to address that problem. I don't think that we should run from it, but we also shouldn't use those statistics to justify abandoning a struggle that needs Black men and women to be engaged in that struggle. When when they had those Jim Crow laws, they didn't say, okay, we just implementing these laws against Black women, or we're just implementing them against Black men. They didn't say that. When they redline Black communities, they don't say, oh, I'm just going to redline the communities with just the women in them, or I'm just going to redline the communities with men in them. They don't say that. They don't, I mean, in terms of the failing schools, they're not set up so it's just, where failing schools are only for the Black women or the young Black men. We face these problems as a collective, and it takes all of us united to address these problems. And instead, what we have are these people that are trying to divide and conquer our community. And that's what this represents: division of our community, the conquering of our community, and the defeat of our community. And that's one of the tactics that, has been used time and time again. And a lot of these bitter women have become tools in the division and the destruction of our community. And while they raise valid points that need to be addressed, it's just unfortunate that some of them are so angry and so bitter that they're willing to tear down the entire community to make sure that their concerns are addressed. And instead of addressing concerns, they are helping to exacerbate the problems by furthering the wedge between Black men and Black women. And this is, this article goes on to talk about patriarchy. Like, these same people that want to tout patriarchy, as I said in another video, these people want to pretend like they actually support patriarchy. They don't really support patriarchy. They don't support it at all. They, a lot of them have the feminist type of mindset, women first type of mindset, women can do anything, and women are independent type of mindset. That's what they have, but they want to carry on this charade as if they actually believe in patriarchy. So this article, goes on to say, you may disagree with me, but I believe that the typical builders and providers of a race are its men. This is really controversial, but when you look at the history in which we live, patriarchy has made it so that men have an easier time advancing in their societies. The people who garner the most wealth, build the most schools, start the banks, run the businesses, run the military, dictate government, they tend to be men. We can argue whether this is how it should be, but it is what it, basically that's the way it is. That's what the woman is saying. And then she goes on to say, Black men are basically more concerned about gaining acceptance and privileges under white supremacy than tearing down the system or building their own self-sustaining community and system. They're more interested in multiculturalism and diversity and achieving the little benefits of white supremacy, instead of going, against the system, basically. And you've heard this before, like, there's YouTubers on here, some of these bitter, butthurt women that use their Black platform to constantly remind Black men that you're not building this, you're not doing that. And there are plenty of examples of Black men that are doing these things, that are building businesses, that are building schools, that are running institutions and all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's not to the degree that we need to in this society. I mean, we should have more entrepreneurship. We should be about building institutions that will last for generations. But we can't say that Black men aren't doing these types of things when you still have institutions today that were built by Black men. Like a Tuskegee Institute, a university that's still around today. A Black man was instrumental in building that. And there are countless other examples. Of course, there should be more, but let's not pretend like Black men aren't building anything. When you have Black men that are heads of Fortune 500 companies, Black billionaires, Black people doing all kinds of great things. So it's just like this kind of mindset, that while they're speaking out against white supremacy, they are actually reaffirming white supremacy by suggesting that this white man is superior to the Black man and that the white man is a better man in terms of building stuff in the community. And it's just pathetic. I mean, these same people that rail against white supremacy this, white supremacy that, never miss an opportunity to bash the Black man. They are, in fact, doing the work of white supremacists by doing so. So let's go in. She said there's just not enough Black people and Black men specifically building for the Black community, creating Black schools, Black media structures, Black companies, blah, blah, blah. For each one of these examples that she cited, there are examples of Black men just doing just that. Again, it's not on the scale that it should be. It should be more. But it's like this is just another cockamamie excuse to denigrate Black men, to shit on Black men. And it's just sad that, some of these women do this kind of stuff, man. So let's see. And these same people, these same women, like this woman complaining about people trying to basically integrate into a white system, are the very people that do that. The same people that write this kind of stuff or talk about this kind of stuff are the same people that be out here dating these white guys, be out here changing their hair so that they can look virtually white, so that they can fit into white spaces and all that kind of stuff. The same people that code switch, talk one way around Black people, then another way around white people, but yet they want to lecture people about trying to fit into the system of white supremacy. So let me on further. And she talks about like the Academy Awards, for instance. Like she said, we celebrate Black people winning Academy Awards more than we celebrate the opening of a Black business. And we beg for representation from media owned and run and by, for and by white people and stuff. And, the only thing that I'll say about that is like, I think that you can do both. You can build businesses, celebrate businesses, and demand respect and equality within the institutions in society. I mean, the fact of the matter is Hollywood makes millions and billions of dollars from Black people. And a lot of that revenue is generated by Black actors and things like that. And they should be recognized for their achievements and, what they have done. So, I don't think that people should just say, oh, I'm fine with them not recognizing my greatness. But even despite that, you also have Black award shows, plenty of, like the Image Awards and other types of award shows, even BET, even though that's not owned by Black people. It originally was. But yeah, let's go into some more of this stuff. Then this woman goes on to talk about how being pro-Black just means being pro-Black men. And a lot of the stuff I talked about before, she's talking about like these disparities in terms of people rallying about Black men that are victims of police brutality as opposed to Black women that are victims of police brutality. And again, I think that we need to do more around recognizing, violence that is perpetrated against Black women. But let's not pretend like Black people aren't out here demonstrating for Black women. All of those people raising their voices around Breonna Taylor. You got Black men going to Kentucky to demonstrate for Breonna Taylor. You got the NFAC that went down there armed to lift up Breonna Taylor's case. You had plenty of other activists, Black men included, that went to jail protesting in support of Breonna Taylor. And you have other examples. You got plenty of people protesting around a lot of Sandra Bland and all these other victims. Raising up their voices and remembering them and demanding justice for them. Again, it's not there should be more, but let's not pretend like there isn't any outrage and all that kind of stuff. And like I said before, like a lot of people will compare, for instance, they'll compare the reaction to Breonna Taylor's death compared to George Floyd's situation. And there are some fundamental differences between those situations. I mean, now Breonna Taylor's case is getting more attention, but there are obvious reasons why there was initially more attention to the George Floyd situation than to the Breonna Taylor. And it doesn't have anything to do with her gender. I mean, first of all, and you don't have in the Breonna Taylor situation, we didn't have a video, whereas in this George Floyd situation, we saw him being killed. There was video, and they played it over and over again in the media, and that further traumatized people and enraged people. So, and just the nature of his death and everything, all of that stuff. Matters. That's why you had an initial different reaction to the two events. You had this brother screaming out he couldn't breathe. He got even to the point where he was crying out for his mother live on camera so everybody could see it. And this brother had his hands cuffed behind him, pinned down by 3 officers. when people saw that, they were naturally outraged. And people are outraged about Breonna Taylor's killing as well. But it's a different situation. It's not a different reaction just based on, the race of the person. I mean, not the race, but the gender of the person. And another thing is this: in that Breonna Taylor situation, one of the people in the house was armed and they actually shot a police officer. And again, I just did a video about Breonna Taylor. I think that there should be justice for her. I think those officers need to be convicted and punished. But it's not the exact same situation as this George Floyd situation. So that's part of the reason why you had a different reaction in those two situations. But now both cases are magnified and there's a lot of attention around those cases. So my point is, let's not pretend like there aren't Black men and women rallying around Black women victims of police brutality. And then, this person goes on to talk about some traditional civil rights organizations that only have male executives, directors. This person fails to mention that for the NAACP, for instance, you had a Black chairwoman of the association, and you also had currently have a vice chair of the NAACP. This a woman. So this notion that women aren't given high-ranking positions in these civil rights organizations is not entirely correct. When you look at the board members of the NAACP, for instance, you see a lot of women leaders. When you look at the state conferences in the NAACP, for instance, you see a lot of women leaders. A lot of the state conference presidents are women. A lot of the branch presidents are women. And a lot of the young leaders in the NAACP are women. So I think that this person is painting a false type of narrative. Of course, there has been some, sexism in the movement, just like there's sexism in this society. That kind of sexism needs to be confronted and addressed. I mean, this woman, while she talks about these traditional organizations, she even acknowledged herself that the leaders of one of the most prominent organizations right now in the movement are women, and that's Black Lives Matter. Yeah, so she goes on to cite some examples of Black men in the movement, such as Eldridge Cleaver and, his disrespect of women and all that kind of stuff, like cherry picking again. This person that's writing this article is not citing all the Black Panther leaders, for instance, that spoke out against sexism, that addressed sexism and stuff like that. She's not citing all these leaders that talk about the need to address that. Then she goes on to talk about how Black men criticize Black women more than they criticize, this actually says Black men critique us worse than white supremacy ever did. And that is just absolutely crazy. This woman is saying that Black men criticize Black women more than white supremacy ever did. I mean, I'm just like, my mind is blown by that ridiculous comment. And then, she goes on to this whole colorism issue. And I have to get into this. So let me just read some of these quotes and then respond to this. She said, colorism is a huge issue in the Black community, and that's because Black men perpetuate the idea that light and bright is ideal. Many Black men discriminate against monoracial Black women with kinky hair, and holding, up dating standards that deal with white beauty and all that kind of stuff. They want white or biracial or light-skinned Black women. anything but a black woman with dark skin and C4 natural hair. Yeah, and obviously, colorism is a major issue in our community. It is a major problem in our community. All you have to do is turn on your television, watch your movies. A lot of times, the love interest is a light skinned black woman or a white woman when it's a black man. Often in these music videos, you have these light skinned women or white women or other non black women. So there's something to this, there's truth in it. Um, a lot of times, many of these celebrities view getting a white or a light woman as some kind of status symbol. That's why you have a lot of these celebrities married to light or white women. So it is a problem. It is a major problem that has to be addressed. But to put this all on the black man to make it seem like the black man is the one critiquing or responsible for this more than white supremacy is absolutely ridiculous, because white supremacy is the system that taught us to value light skin. White supremacy is the system that taught us to hate ourselves. You know, when these people engage in colorism, they are projecting their self-hatred. It's the white system that has taught us to hate ourselves. They taught us when they gave us those caricatures of blackness, when they gave us Little Black Sambo, when they gave us blackface, when they gave us cartoons depicting us as subhuman, depicting African features as hideous and exaggerated. Those are the things that taught us to hate us ourselves, you know, giving us the image of Africa as a savage place, as a place of cannibalism and barbarism. That's why we began to believe that there was something wrong with our dark skin. It's like they want to point at the victim. I mean, when you look at this whole situation, black people as a people have been victimized and brainwashed and taught to buy into the lie of white supremacy. So you can't point to the black man and say he's the one critiquing you more than white supremacy ever did, when it's white supremacy that taught us to hate our black selves and to idolize whiteness, to view the white woman as a standard of beauty. White supremacy taught that. Our people didn't come off from Africa, on those slave ships thinking, oh, I don't value my dark skin. Somebody had to teach them that over generations. Somebody had to program them to believe that that was normal. Yeah, and then she goes on to say that, like, despite like black men having these dating choices, where they're preferring light skinned women or white women or biracial women, um, black women continue to be with black men. She says, I don't know a single black woman who dates outside of her race. Aside, and then she goes, aside from my sister. I mean, that just invalidated everything you said. I mean, there are plenty of black women that date outside of their race, but there are, more men that do it than black women, unfortunately. I think that in order to deal with this situation, we have to gain a knowledge of self, and we need to have these hard conversations about colorism. That's why I commend, those women that are genuine when they talk about the colorism issue and they speak about it. But yeah, we have to address that. We definitely have to address that issue. Okay. And then she cites all these examples of black men making fun of black women, like Martin, when Martin's, no, actually, she mentions Tyler Perry doing Medea and she talks about black men on Instagram making fun of black women. And she mentioned somebody named Starkeisha. Uh, I'm not familiar with that. Um, yeah, but obviously I don't condone that. But to use that as an example as to why you should abandon the black community and abandon being pro-black, to me that's so really ridiculous because those people only they make up a small percentage of the um, black men. Most black men are not running around dressed up like women, attacking women or making mockery of women and stuff like that. And obviously, white men dress up like women too and act clownish and buffoonish too. Not to excuse the behavior, but come on, like you're gonna write off your whole commitment to the black community because of a few black men in Hollywood doing some acts and stuff like that. To me, that's ridiculous and silly. And it shows you how petty minded some people are. Like, of course, like misogyny needs to be condemned. And, you know, and one thing that I'll say is that there are plenty of men, black men, that do condemn and speak out against misogyny and stuff all the time. And that's something else that she goes on to, like, the misogynistic terms used to demean women and stuff like that. You have many men that speak out against that. Um, that demand that we respect our sisters. And you even have some of these guys that go so far as to be basically worshiping women. You know what I'm saying? Like literally calling a black woman God and all that kind of stuff, which is going too far for me. That's extreme. But let's not pretend like there are not men that are out here defending black women, that are speaking out against misogyny. And then she concludes her article by saying that now she's pro-woman, pro-black woman. Um, and and she says everything that she does is in her best interest and the best interest of black women. I place myself first. That's what she says. And then she goes on and on. And, the bottom line is like, I think, let me stop sharing my screen. Yeah, so I think that the bottom line is when people have that mentality where they're selfish and they're self-centered and they're just thinking about their own interests as an individual, that just sets us up for failure as a group of people. That sets us up for a situation where we remain divided and conquered as a people. Um, I mean, just imagine if a Martin Luther King or whatever said, well, I'm just going to be about me. I'm just going to be concerned about my own issues. Or Rosa Parks said, hey, I'm just going to be concerned about me. I'm just doing me out here. Forget a black community or, all these other activists and leaders. If they just basically focused on themselves instead of the people, then we would be in bad shape as a people. And I think that that's where we're heading right now. Like we're so individualistic and self-centered. We no longer have a collective spirit and a collective mentality. And, as long as we remain divided like that, we will continue to be defeated as a people. As long as we're divided along race, along gender lines, we will be defeated as a people. As long as we're divided in other kinds of ways, we will continue to be at the bottom of the totem pole. You can't be truly pro-black woman without being pro-black community. The black woman can't thrive without a strong, vibrant black community. And the same is true for the black man. This go it alone mentality, every man or woman for themselves type of mentality is part of the reason why we're in our predicament today. So those are my thoughts about this situation. Shout out to the people that tuned in, the couple of people that watched. Shout out to Fredro. Thanks for tuning in. Peace and blessings, everyone. I hope that you all enjoy your weekend. Please rate, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. Peace and blessings. Have a great day.